In some places, that's 74 in Fahrenheit. In the warmest weather of the year so far, St James's Park in central London was the hottest spot in the country. But it wasn't limited to the south, with Yorkshire and parts of Scotland also seeing soaring temperatures. It's set to continue for the weekend, and the Met Office is urging people to wear sunscreen to protect against higher than normal UV levels. Well, on TV, online and DAB Plus radio, this is GB News. Now it's back to Mark Dolan tonight.
You are watching Mark Dolan tonight. It is Friday, the 15th of April. A very happy Good Friday to one and all. We've got a jam-packed 2 hours for you. That's right, an evening of bank holiday Easter entertainment. My Mark Meets guest is the legendary dancer and reality star Wayne Sleep, OBE. He'll be talking about Cats, Andrew Lloyd Webber, I'm a Celebrity, The Real Marigold Hotel, and so many more of his TV hits. He'll talk about his amazing career live in the studio at 10. Wayne Sleep, OBE, live on the show at 10 o'clock. In the big question, with crime reportedly on the rise, do you still have confidence in the police? Are the police still keeping Britain safe? We'll hear from all sides on that one, including two ex-top cops. Reacting to the big stories of the day is my amazing panel tonight. Former soldier and star of the hit TV show Gladiators, David McIntosh. A warm welcome to David, his first appearance on the show. We're also joined by TV royalty, broadcaster, entertainer, entrepreneur and legend, the one and only Ingrid Tarrant. And I'm delighted to welcome back to the show, political trial genius, Connor Tomlinson. Great to have all three of you with me tonight. In the news agenda, they'll be looking at the following issues. Will the Rwanda plan for illegal immigration work? Would you buy an electric car? And why middle-aged Brits don't want to be seen naked. Plus, more alternative news headlines. Tonight featuring Nicole Kidman. And also the alleged leader of the free world, none other than Joe Biden himself. Plus, we've got another great British game show tonight based around the TV smash hit Gladiators. Do you remember that show? What a series it was. But my priority is to get your opinions on the national television airwaves. I want to hear from you throughout the show. Mark at gbnews.uk. You know the best bit of my show is when you get in touch. So, remember the rules of the show. We don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. It is a 4-day weekend, folks. The sun is shining. Some of you are working this weekend and plenty of you are off. But either way, let's have a bit of a debate, a few laughs, and let's just make this weekend sing right by. Strap yourselves in for a big 2 hours, grab something cold and bubbly from the fridge, or fire up the kettle and tear open the hot cross buns. My team ran out earlier to the supermarket and bought these, which is M&S Extremely Cheesy. How appropriate. I hope they're not commenting on my presentational style. The best thing about these buns, yellow ticket item, was £1.65, 64p in the sale. Bargain. Busy show? Let's get to work. I couldn't give a stuff about Partygate. I just hope it's the end of the party for those ridiculous rules in the first place. Of course, it's a disgrace that staffers at Number 10 gratuitously ignored COVID rules that they were inflicting on us in the first place. But it was ever thus with politicians. One set of rules for them, another set of rules for us. It's the same for the Sunak family when you look at their tax affairs. It's us, the stupid, unthinking, ignorant, unwashed proletariat that must do as we're told and pay our way. Meanwhile, the elites are avoiding taxes, and during lockdown, they're literally carting suitcases of plonk into Number 10 for quiz nights, sing-alongs, and in the case of Matt Hancock, a snog fest in the corridor. They were laughing at us. They were laughing at you. But indignation over Partygate misses the point, perhaps conveniently for some, including the likes of Sir Keir Starmer. This is a man who has been in uproar over Partygate, but who has been the biggest cheerleader for these nonsensical rules in the first place. Partygate is a sideshow, a distraction and a soap opera that the British people can ill afford as we face the biggest cost of living crisis in living memory. Westminster tittle-tattle, point scoring and calls for high-profile resignations are the last thing we need. In my view, we need to keep our excellent Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, who, notwithstanding his own problems this week, saved thousands of businesses and possibly millions of jobs with the furlough scheme. Of course, I was profoundly against lockdowns, but if you're going to have them, then you've got to compensate people. And the furlough scheme, whilst a fig leaf for a failed and ruinous policy of lockdowns, was necessary nonetheless. And whilst I'm furious with Boris Johnson for giving in to the sage scientists, the professors of doom for 2 years, and ignoring his own liberal principles, wandering into a room for 9 minutes and blowing out the candles on a birthday cake is hardly a reckless all-nighter. It's not exactly 24-hour party people. It's hardly crime of the century. The crime of the century were the rules themselves that were so flagrantly broken. And why were those rules broken by those at the heart of government? Because they knew it was all bollocks. The masks, the lockdowns, the social distancing, the bubbles, and the endless testing. The real crime was not Partygate, but the rules in the first place, wrecking a country and its people and handing colossal debt to future generations, some of whom haven't even been born yet. That was the crime. The real crime was inflicting an unprecedented attack on our civil liberties or bullying people into getting vaccinated just to keep their job. That's what's unforgivable, and that is what should be a resignation matter. But if it was a resignation matter, then it would be Starmer, Johnson, Whitty, Vallance and an entire generation of politicians and so-called health experts that would be for the chop. Trying and failing to control a virus that's going to do what the hell it wants to do, something I pointed out almost 2 years ago, has been the real outrage. Destroying the country and the health and living standards of its people is a hell of a lot worse than red wine and birthday cake. So it's time to move on from Partygate. And it seems I'm not the only one with that view. A poll for the Daily Mail newspaper reveals that Britons believe there are more important things to worry about than Partygate. More than half said the UK needs to move on from the scandal. Well, I agree with the British people, not for the first time. But for us to move on in any meaningful and decisive way, Boris Johnson must make a sworn commitment to never again pursue the folly of trying to control a virus, something we're currently seeing an extreme version of in Shanghai in China, where people are locked in apartment blocks, screaming for food and water, and where officials wearing dystopian hazmat suits are beating dogs and cats to death that are suspected of having COVID. If Boris ends the war on COVID, then he has my support. And if the Chancellor can get his tax affairs in order so he pays his fair share, he should stay too. Because we need one of the most gifted politicians of his generation and a high achiever in his own life at the Treasury. I still fancy Rishi Sunak. I still fancy him for the top job. It's a controversial view, but it's one that I still hold. I've not quite thrown the towel in on that one. But whatever your views on Sunak or Johnson, right now, we need the best people running the country. And I don't want to see people hired and fired based around confected, politically motivated rage. My brilliant colleague Dan Wootton put it so well yesterday. Keir Starmer just said that Brits did the right thing by not going to funerals, not going to weddings, not going to the birth of their own children, not seeing elderly relatives. No, Keir, not doing all of those things was the wrong thing to do. Making these things illegal was inhumane. How right Dan is, and he's back on Monday at 9. Boris Johnson seems to be getting to grips with the Channel migrant crisis, which in my view is a humanitarian crisis. And it's time that we crushed the business model of the evil gangsters who profit from that perilous crossing. And Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak can be a team that steers the powerhouse that is the British economy back to healthy growth, gradually paying down our debts, tackling inflation, and helping the great British public with the cost of living. And of course, Boris has smashed it in relation to Ukraine. On a visit to Kiev recently, he was described by the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as a hero. If Boris Johnson sorts out illegal immigration, tackles the cost of living crisis, heals the economy, fights crime, battles extreme political correctness, or wokeism as it's known, if he tackles the appalling NHS waiting list, and if he makes it clear that we will never pursue the folly of these COVID measures ever again, then he will be a hero to all. Post-pandemic, post-Brexit Britain can be a fast-growing, dynamic, diverse, creative, happy and successful place. In fact, I'm certain it will be. But it's time to rid Britain of the ghost of COVID, and with that, the threat of any future lockdowns or other damaging and divisive measures to control a virus that the last 2 years have proved couldn't care less what we do. I like this tweet from a lady that follows me on Twitter called MP. Pretty sure she's not an MP, but take a look at this. She's a regular member of the public, I believe, and she tweeted, "I have a cold. The amount of family and friends asking whether I've taken a test is unreal. No, I haven't. No. Why would I? No, no, and no. The ongoing brainwashing with the updating of the endless list of Rona symptoms is totally complete." Couldn't agree with you more. It's time to ditch the failed, ruinous policies of the last 2 years and get back to normal. Not for a few months, but forever. If that happens, it won't be Partygate anymore. It will be party time. And I will drink to that. Cheers and happy Easter. Thirsty work, this presenting lark. I'm delighted to say reacting to the big stories of the day is my all-star panel. TV personality and broadcaster Ingrid Tarrant, former Royal Marine, TV gladiator and mindset coach David McIntosh, and political commentator Connor Tomlinson. So, folks, what do we think? Connor, do you believe that we are going to move on from Partygate?
Well, I don't think Boris particularly wants to move on from COVID all that much. He seemed the other day in the groundbreaking interview that GBNews got an exclusive to leave the door open for further COVID restrictions. And that person standing behind him, the Chancellor, who has higher political ambitions, well, I'm not sure what your wonderful production team slipped into those hot cross buns, Mark, but if you think Rishi Sunak is an award-winning politician of our generation, there's got another thing coming. It was his policies that put us in the cost of living crisis with the massive amount of money printing over at the Treasury and the Bank of England. And also he's obsessed with central bank digital currencies. That's the biggest civil rights violation since lockdown. It's going to have the ability to program what you can spend your money on, with who, and if you're a political dissident, if you critique something like net zero or lockdown, well, boom, there goes your ability to buy goods. I want to be shot of Sunak as quick as possible.
David McIntosh, do you think we're able to move on from Partygate, or should we still be focused on it?
First and foremost, Mark, I nearly shed a tear at the most honest reporting I've heard in years. Thank you very much. Yeah, to be honest, the government with me, they've lost all integrity, all integrity. And with integrity, it's like virginity. Once it's gone, it's gone. But you say, can we move on from Partygate? I think for 80% of the public out there, if you tell them next week to put on a mask, they'll go and do it. So they'll happily move on. So they can keep lying and lying and lying again. So I can move on. I'm sure my fellow colleagues can move on. But can the citizens of Britain? Probably not.
Do you share my view, David, that we're missing the point getting angry about Partygate? I mean, I think it is appalling that staffers at Number 10 ignored the rules that were forced upon us. But the bigger story is the measures in the first place.
Oh, it's preposterous, to be honest. I mean, the measures, I'll throw my hands up, not for the start to the end. I wouldn't wear a mask. You know, I wouldn't condone to any of the rules. And I think if that would have done from the start for many people, but a lot of people want to go with the flow. Virtue signalling, you know, want to look a helping hand, you know, but...
Ingrid, do you think the government will survive the Partygate scandal?
I do. Only sheer luck. because we're diverted, you know, Ukraine and all those things going on. But actually, quite interestingly, I don't really kind of like agree with, normally I agree with most of everything you say. I don't think this Partygate is such a big deal in the first place, and it's become such a big deal. You know, the photo that they keep sort of putting in the paper and everything, that's an aerial shot from in the gardens of Number 10. They are actually keeping a safe distance. The other thing that I think we really should be reminded of is that it is a workplace. It happens to be his home, and it also happens to be a workplace. People working at Amazon, people working in supermarkets, they were mingling, and I'm sure that if there was somebody's birthday in any of these places that was still serving us and looking after us while the rest, you know, we're all in lockdown, I'm sure if somebody had a birthday, a cake would come out. I'm sure a bottle of wine might come out, a bottle of beer. So I think we've actually really exaggerated it. I'm not a fan of Boris's at all, but I think we're just gunning for him a little bit too hard here.
But he did make the rules. He was the one that locked us in our home for 2 years. And then as well, the whole thing about Partygate, OK, it may be a big media distraction. It may just be to get ratings. And the point is that he not only broke the promises he set, but that the rules were wrong in the first place. As you said, Mark, so Partygate should be a misnomer. He should be out on his ear for locking us down in the first place. However, the main contention here is, did he lie to Parliament? That is going to be the key death blow. That's after he's received the fine, etc.
Well, you know what he'll say? He didn't lie because he thought that he was doing the right thing.
Utterly
he was having a party in the workplace that happened to be his home. It's grey. It is a grey area. I mean, I see it as a grey area.
If he didn't know he was at a party, he shouldn't be running the country.
No, he did, but he didn't know that he shouldn't be with his work colleagues because that's the office place. I think we've got to get this right. You know, people here at GBNews were still operating during COVID. It's an office place. You can't exclude it, so you come out the bubble.
But but GBNews weren't pushing. They were actively advocating against lockdown policy. He was the one enforcing it.
Yeah, so. OK. All right, then all the other BBC.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're pushing the narrative, you should be a stickler to the rules. Do you know what I mean? Straight by them. Yeah. You know, straight shooter. So he's pushing the narrative.
Example.
Yeah.
I think you'll agree we're travelling business class with my panel tonight. And what a debut from TV Gladiator, former Royal Marine and mindset coach David McIntosh, as well as the brilliant Connaught Tomlinson and Ingrid Tarrant. So what do you think? Is it time to move on from Partygate? Do you agree with me in my big opinion that the real crime was the lockdowns and the other rules themselves, not the flouting of them? Let me know your thoughts, Mark at gbnews.uk. We've got a big debate coming up next in the big question. Are the police keeping us safe? That's what I want to know from you. We'll speak to two former top ex-cops about that one. Are you happy with the level of crime prevention that's happening in this country? Also, before 10, is the Rwanda plan for immigration going to work? All of that, plus more of your emails. Once again, Mark at gbnews.uk. Wayne Sleep, OBE, legendary dancer and reality star, is with us at 10. Plus, alternative headlines, a game show, and my amazing panel. See you shortly.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us. 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, but to the point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
So much to get through in tonight's show. Wayne Sleep, the legendary dancer, the man that famously danced with Diana, the Princess of Wales. He's been in every musical you can think of. He's worked with Nureyev. He's also done reality TV as well. The Real Marigold Hotel, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, The Big Brother House, you name it. Well, he tells his amazing life story at 10 o'clock. Lots of emails coming in. In regards to my big opinion monologue, I think it's time to move on from Partygate. And Janice says, Mark, we should indeed move on from Partygate. Your three panellists have got it wrong. Boris didn't make all these lockdown rules. Some were made whilst he was in hospital fighting for his life by the then Health Minister Matt Hancock and, of course, Sage. Caroline says, Mark, we must move on. People were screaming at Boris to lock down as other countries were. The various gatherings cannot all be seen as a party. If they were, I, for one, would be bored stiff. I know which face I would want to plant that birthday cake on. It's not with the man who nearly died. Caroline there, perhaps referencing the former Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, but I couldn't possibly speculate. How about this last one from Dennis? Dear Mark, the scientists made the rules, not Boris. He echoed their warnings and their scare stories. Well, Dennis, I've got to say, if we saw the back of Sage, I certainly wouldn't mourn their passing. Keep your opinions coming in, mark@gbnews.uk. It's time now for the big question, in which we tackle a major news story of the day from multiple points of view. Tonight, the job advert for the next Met Police Commissioner has gone live, and the successful candidate will be tasked with making the force demonstrably more professional. Good luck with that one. The winning candidate will take home a handsome £293,000 a year. But with police forces across the country having spent 2 years enforcing debatable measures like 10 p.m. curfews in the pub, mask mandates, closing gyms, and even arresting a woman for sitting alone drinking a coffee on a bench at the seaside, do police forces still enjoy public confidence? And with more focus on so-called hate crimes and non-hate crime incidents, are cops more focused on policing tweets than they are policing the streets? Added to that, the plethora of police cars sporting rainbow flags, a nice gesture perhaps, but should that be their priority? That's tonight's big question. Are the police still keeping Britain safe? To debate this, I'm delighted to welcome Di Davies, former operational commander and head of Royalty Protection Command, and Colin Sutton, former Detective Chief Inspector. If I could start with you, Colin Sutton, are the police still keeping Britain safe?
I think they are, to a large degree. I think there is a vast number of brave young men and women who want to do that. They're having increasing difficulty, I think, in getting past some of the hoops that they're made to jump through in trying to do the job in the calling that they've signed up to do. I think it's we see it in other organisations, the NHS and things like that. The people who actually deliver the service at the sharp end are the ones who want to get on and to do what they think they're paid for. But sometimes those who set the strategies have other ideas.
What are your thoughts on this, Di Davies? Many out there in the public feel that the police are focused on the wrong things at the moment.
Well, I tend to agree. There's been a 3-year review by an eminent individual. It started in 2019 and it's just reported with 56 recommendations. I think at senior level, there's a recognition that the police throughout the country are losing, to some extent, the confidence of the men and women that we're meant to serve. I agree with Colin. The front end, many of them are exceptionally brave, and they just want to get on and do the job. But you know, the last Royal Commission was in 1960. I think this, and if you go through the recommendations, there are 56 from memory, and one of the key ones is crime prevention. The other one is to protect the vulnerable. And a lot of people talk about this, but I don't see a huge sign in forces taking this on board, particularly in domestic violence and attacks against women. There is a dreadful record of failure in terms of rape, in terms of domestic violence and other sexual offences, mostly against women. And if I was a chief constable, that would be my priority, and we're not putting it at the level it should be. But it's not just the police, it's the CPS, it's the crime commissioners, that other load of nonsense that was brought on by this government, along with getting rid of very, very experienced officers. And what you often have on the front line are very inexperienced officers, led sometimes by sergeants and inspectors who themselves are not particularly as it were, professional, because they haven't had the training or the time on the streets. You know, I had 12 or 13 years before I was an inspector, and so on and so forth. You knew your job because you stayed on the streets and you policed the streets, and that's where you need proper coppering.
And Di Davis, what are your thoughts about the policing of so-called hate crimes, such as an offensive Facebook post or tweet?
Well, it would have to take its priority along with others, including stabbings, violent attacks against men and women, and as I say, violence against women in every shape and form. That's the one area, you know, half this nation are women. And if we can't look after our women as men, and I'm sorry if that sounds sexist, there's something wrong with us as policemen and women. They have to have priority. So do the courts. I'm fed up with hearing lessons have been learned when I hear of child abuse. And I was an ambassador for a child protection unit for many, many years. I'm fed up of hearing we've learned lessons, and I'm fed up of chief constables telling me, like the Greater Manchester, the scandal there is appalling. And yet what we do, we give knighthoods to these chief constables. We give them all kinds of medals. If they were running an organisation, they would be sacked because their performance is so appallingly poor. Not in all cases, but in many cases.
And Colin Sutton, we learned just a couple of months ago, we discussed it on this programme, that less than 10% of burglaries are actually followed up by the police, and a fraction, a tiny number, are prosecuted.
Yeah, it's the number of officers available to respond has been dramatically reduced as a result of the cuts over the last 10 or 12 years. And it's not just a matter of pure numbers. It's what those officers are doing. And at the same time, we've seen this reduction in support services, such as for mental health, such as for children's services and things like that. And so much of these response officers' time is being taken up by dealing with people in mental health crisis, by waiting around at hospitals, waiting for somebody to assess the person they've brought in. Those police officers should be there to the hospital, back on the streets again. You know, I said to someone a little while ago, they say you never see a policeman on the street. Say, well, pop down to your local A&E, because you'll always see a police vehicle or two outside there, because that's where police are all the time. So it's not just entirely a policing problem, I suppose. It's the Easter weekend. Social services, mental health services will have finished at 5 o'clock by and large on Thursday, and they won't be back until next Tuesday. Who covers that void over this long weekend? Everything falls to the police, it seems. And because they care, as a service and as individuals they care, they will respond and they will do their best, but they're not trained to do it, and it's diverting them from what many would see as their primary objectives.
So, Colin, do you not think the culture of British policing has changed since you were a detective chief inspector? Don't you think that criminals see the police now as a soft touch?
I'm not sure they see the police as a soft touch. I spent many years trying to fathom out how criminals think, and I never really got there. But I'm certain that the culture has changed. The culture changed in the 30 years that I served, and in the 10 years or so since I left, it's changed again. And that's probably a good thing, that culture has to change as the culture of society changes, I suppose. But the essential point is that we still have young men and women coming forward wanting to serve their communities. And we as a community, as a society, need to make sure that they're given the equipment, the resources and the strategic backing to do that job and to serve their communities in the way they'd like to.
But Colin Sutton, staying on the culture of British policing, don't you think they've gone a bit PC, no pun intended? They've gone a bit woke, dancing at these kind of, rather dramatic demonstrations, including Extinction Rebellion and BLM. We've got rainbows expensively painted onto police cars. And we've also got Extinction Rebellion having police officers asking them, or Interlake Britain, are you all right sat on that motorway? Do you want water? Do you want something to eat?
Well, I mean, it's, engagement with the community has always been important. I think it goes too far, personally. I'm sure there are others that will disagree with that. But yes, I think it goes too far. In terms of the way in which protesters are treated, that's largely a product of decisions made within our courts. This is why these protesters aren't being arrested en masse for highway obstruction, because the courts in their wisdom have decided that it's a human right to be able to obstruct the streets to protest.
But Colin, why are cops dancing with them, laughing and joking and offering them a cup of tea?
Well, I'm not sure they offer them a cup of tea. I think I've heard them offer them water and are you all right? And they say that's because there is
Who cares if they're all right? They're blocking the M25.
But there's been this litigious culture that's saying that once a person is in police custody, and that's drawn very widely, then the police are responsible for their well-being. And so they're instructed to make sure that these people out there are well. And that might sound daft to many, many people, but that's actually how the law has been interpreted, and that's how the instructions to police are. If we don't want that, then really we need to make sure that those laws are changed and that these decisions aren't arrived at by people who aren't actually doing the job there and then. But there are many things, I suspect, that the general public and the average man or woman in the street would find really, really bizarre about how the law has evolved over the last few years in this country.
I've just received an email, Di Davies, from Shane, who's an Irishman. He says, "Hi, Mark, it's a horrible gesture having rainbows on police cars. As an Irish person, I'm sick of having the rainbow stolen. It was a symbol of Ireland as a famous pint of Guinness and had pot of gold at the end of it, not something rather more X-rated," says Shane. So it's time to reclaim the rainbow, especially since it now stands for uniformity and exclusion. It's not the job of the police to partake in ideological shaping of society. That's the role of the security apparatus in an authoritarian state, the thought police. What do you think about the culture of British policing? Has it gone a bit woke?
Well, yes, from what I see, and I've got even more experience than Colin. I'm 53 years now, which is quite a long time, and certainly since I joined in the 60s, it's almost unrecognisable in terms of leadership and all the rest of it. Yes, I agree. I don't think we should be involved in any kind of glorified woke or anything else. But, there are simple things we could do to engender more money, and that is to amalgamate so many of the forces in this country into either regions. You could reshape and have a kind of FBI to deal with major crime. National issues such as, the crime agency and others could be amalgamated. There are so many aspects, including human resources, that if we joined up a lot of these forces, got rid of half of these senior officers, which are replicated in 43 forces, paid a lot of money by anyone's standards, and then we put that money back on the streets. You know, they've all got different uniform, clothing allowance, vehicle allowances. I could go on and on. We could save millions and translate that to put more officers on the streets. In my day, I would make my officers go out on night duty and bring in at least 3 or 4 arrests. And all they had to do was convince me or my sergeant there was credible cause. We would put them in the cell, and I or the sergeant would decide on the charges. Now it has a lengthy process. It's simply gone completely haywire as far as I'm concerned. And what it lacks is lack of courage in both the Home Office, the mayoral offices in many of these places, and the failure by commissioners, these civilian commissioners, to hold chief constables to account, to be more financially aware, to make sure. Look at Manchester. I keep going back to Manchester and Rotherham. You know, the guy in charge then was ignoring the issue, and yet they knighted him. I beggar's belief, and I've been at this half a century now, and all I see is failure. And in any other organisation at that level, you would be sacked.
This from David, who has emailed into the programme. Dear Mark, I am a retired police chief inspector. I personally think the reason for the poor performance is due to a lack of discipline and a lack of supervision. You are absolutely correct, Mark, about the woke attitude eroding the police service. Senior officers are frightened of being accused of whatever. That from David, a former ex-policeman. Well, Colin and Di, do stay with us. Let's bring my panel in on this. Connor and David and Ingrid. I'll start with you, Ingrid. As a woman, do you think that, do you feel safe on the streets as you go about your business?
No. And it has eroded, as Di said, over time. I mean, I'm kind of going back a bit myself, as you can probably tell. There was a time when you would run to the police for help. Now I wouldn't. I don't trust them at all. And I will say, and I'll put it out there, I was assaulted by a policeman, and I still have injuries from it. It was one man on his own. He broke all the rules, and they joined forces, closed ranks, and there you go. Nothing was happened. Nothing happened. It went to court, but that's exactly what happened because they were protecting each other. So I am really anti the police, but I am anti a lot of the institutions run by the government, the teaching, social services, the NHS. It is absolutely appalling. They've lost control. None of them work efficiently. Look at the DVLA, where they couldn't get the licences. The lorry drivers couldn't get theirs, and then they have to make allowances. So they're always diluting the normal process of things just to solve a problem that they have caused in the first place. So everything's going... I mean, they're recruiting criminals now for the police, because there aren't people out there. I know this sounds really ridiculous. I think when they stopped that rule of being 6 foot tall and you could get smaller, it started to go, everything started to go down, not just in stature, but in quality, with training. I think it's pathetic. I think we're a laughing stock, and to be so woke like this, they should be the arm, strong arm of the law and all that, and you know, we're controlling them. They're not controlling us, and they're not doing a good job anymore. Sad. Very sad.
David McIntosh, you served with distinction in the Royal Marines. What's your view on the physicality point made there by Ingrid, the height and stature of police officers?
Yeah, well, the thing is, there used to be a very high fitness test within the police, but over the years, well, actually, my dad was a policeman, so this is coming from first-hand information. And over the years, he's told me, and I've seen myself as well, the physicality of a policeman, woman, has lowered down the fitness tests, how they look. And I seem to think they move more towards the educated person rather than someone who's grassroots, wants to get involved, wants to be a part of the community. So you started seeing the recruit from if you've got a degree. So the police would start going to universities more so. If you got a degree, you're more than likely to get a job with the police, which, to be honest, I don't think that's the right way, because the people who are mainly at university, they don't quite kind of have the rapport with a lot of the public as much.
Learning on the job, isn't it?
Yeah, learn job,
that's better. You can't learn it from a textbook necessarily. It's experience.
Yeah, Connor Tomlinson, there was an old saying, you know you're getting older when policemen start looking young. Well, now political commentators are looking young. You are very fresh-faced. What do you think is the future for British policing?
I'm hardly Greta Thunberg, Mark. I'm heartbroken at the accusation. My dad actually does quite a lot of engineering work, like the duct work and plumbing for the Met police stations, and he's had a chat with quite a few of the police over his time. And they've said exactly what Di has said. Basically, there's a lack of respect for the upper officers, mainly because they're so terrified of getting accused here, that and the other. But even when they're doing things like drills, like laps of the yard, or when they're standing at the officiation ceremony, some of them are sniggering, chatting amongst themselves, like it's a school assembly. And then, as some of the frontline officers not being quite so competent, not having the experience, as David said, my dad was told a story by an high up officer once where he said, oh, you had a bunch of new recruits who were doing a sort of walking the beat, etc. And one of them nipped into a supermarket express that we will not leave brandless. And one guy, he said, came up to him during the time he was in there. He came out and he said, I've just been threatened to be stabbed by some guy in there. And the sergeant went, oh, well, did you nick him for it? And he went, well, should I? Am I allowed to do that? And it's just like the basic lack of common sense from officers who are basically being told...
And a man on the street would do something about it. You don't have to be in
But this is the
uniform,
thing. You can only get answers that incompetent and lacking in common sense if you recruit from universities.
Yeah, well, that's it.
OK, well, Colin Sutton, in conclusion, what do you think is the answer for British policing? Where do we go from here?
It's a tough one. Let's concentrate the police officers that we do have on policing rather than other tasks that should fall to other agencies. I'm quite happy with the lack in stature of officers. I really don't think that's an issue at all. But I will say that the fitness thing is for almost all of my service, which ended, say, about 10 years ago, there was no further fitness test after you left training school. That is now in place, and officers do have to comply with the fitness test now. And those fitness tests are graded. So if you're doing the more demanding roles, such as with shields or with firearms, then you have to be commensurately fitter as well. But I think it's about leadership. It's about supervision. It's about getting the first and second line supervisors, sergeants and inspectors with their officers, not sitting behind a desk, not authorising things on the computer, but being out there, leading from the front, showing how the job should be done. And that's also the way that you stop these little cliques that end up with these awful WhatsApp groups and things like we saw at Charing Cross, because, quite frankly, if they've got decent supervisors with them, they would not dare do something as ridiculous as that.
Di Davies, in conclusion, briefly, if you can, is this an issue of culture, of policy, or of funding?
It's a combination of all three, but it's not just the police. It is the Home Office, it is the government themselves, and we have the blind leading the blind, both in government, in the Home Office, which often has been said it's not fit for purpose. And unfortunately, we have police leaders, in my opinion, who are not fit for purpose either. We've got to have a shake-up. The 58 recommendations coming through after 3 years, hopefully, will start. But we need to select the right people to do the right jobs. And sadly, we've lost that art at the moment. You know, the Lord Stevenson, Inbert, people like that, you followed them because you knew they were practical coppers. Sadly, we've lost that now in many places. Not all of them. There are some good chiefs, but they are a few in number. And the College of Policing should hold their heads in shame, because they are meant to give the standards to police services, and they're not. They need a shake-up, and we've got to get rid of these people who are allegedly brilliant at that job. Any other industry, I'd sack them.
My sincere thanks to Di Davies, former operational commander and the man who was in charge of security for the royal family. Also, my thanks to Colin Sutton, former Detective Chief Inspector. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. I do hope we get to speak again in the near future. Thanks to my panel as well, who will be reacting to the big stories of the day in our news agenda, including next up, will the Rwanda plan for the Channel migrant crisis actually work? We've also got my alternative news headlines, and your emails are coming in thick and fast. Are the police still keeping Britain safe? Mark at gbnews.uk. I'll get to your thoughts after this.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Well, we're back on air and we've got lots to get through. Wayne Sleep, OBE, is live in the studio. An amazing dancer. He danced with Princess Diana. Of course, he's been in every musical you can think of. And I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and all those reality shows. Wayne Sleep tells his amazing story at 10. Plus, we've got my alternative news headlines on the way. But are the police still keeping Britain safe is our big question of the show. And how about this from Sue? Dear Mark, every policeman that comes on TV mentions cuts in the police. It was the senior police officers who decided how to make savings requested of them. They decided to cut front-end staff instead of office police and staff. And that's Sue's opinion. Dear Mark, rather than dancing with the eco-terrorists, I would use water cannon to clear them off the streets. They really should be locked up. Strong words there from Tony. Hi, Mark. We need some Jack Regans and George Carters. You're nicked, says Pete. And good show. Well, Pete, thank you so much for that. This from Chris. Dear Mark, if the police disappeared overnight on the quiet, no one would even notice. Harsh words there. And the final thought on Partygate. Michael says, hi, Mark, with specific regard to the so-called garden party at number 10, let me say that in our workplace, we held team meetings outside in the superb May 2020 weather. Far healthier than a stuffy meeting room inside. No-brainer. Michael, thank you so much for that. Well, let's get to our next story if we can. We know now that the government have rolled out plans to send potential asylum seekers to Rwanda in order to tackle the migrant crisis. But will it work? Panel, what do we think about this? Connor, is this the right way to go?
Well, the Rwandans seem quite happy with it because obviously we're giving them quite a decent cash payment. I don't think the 120 million figure is going to stick. However, pretty much anything at this point is going to be more cost effective than what we're doing because we're paying 1.8 billion a year and it's going up and up.
Yeah.
And the laughable thing of the Labour Party saying, oh, it's too expensive, it's utterly unaffordable, it's infeasible. Well, I don't think that they've got a complaint about cost when they voted for the lockdown policy, when they're happy to take a few thousand ahead for the Labour councils to repatriate these migrants. I think they're just worried about losing a paycheck and a voter base.
What do you think, David? Is it cruel sending people off to Rwanda?
Well, let's be honest. Are they doing it to ruffle feathers? Only 2 weeks ago, they were saying, how's the Ukrainian? You know, now they're saying, send these refugees to Rwanda. To be honest, if I'm on all honesty, I don't think it's going to happen. It's a distraction. It's cock and bull story, and I guarantee you in 4 weeks you won't have heard of it again. No one's going to Rwanda, not whatsoever.
Do you not think, though, that the manner in which people are crossing the channel illegally is a problem that must be addressed?
Oh, 100%. And if you have to look at the not statistics, if you have to look how it's getting done, come on, they're coming from Middle East and Africa, and they have numerous countries to go to, wealthy countries, before they reach us. Let's be honest, OK? So they could go to those countries.
Yeah.
But are they lying about the numbers? I cannot imagine. You've seen the pictures of people in the dinghy. There's no way. I've worked out at sea. There's no way on one of those dinghies you are getting across that channel. It's impossible. You know, there's 15 people, 20 people overloaded on there. You get a wave, you're done before you're even leaving 100 metres off that beach. So whether it's another fallacy by the system, you know, trying to get us against each other, that's more my liking to the matter.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is that we want a fair immigration policy.
100%, definitely.
And these people that undermine it, I mean, in the end, it's probably not the people in the dinghies, but it's the gangsters behind this industry. And we do need to break that business model, don't we?
But what's the number of people illegally crossing the sea? I'm sure
last year, 28,500.
28,000.
So you question that figure?
I question that number.
I absolutely don't. I
can't imagine it.
The amount of
I
hotels
know what
that
you're
are
saying
packed
about
out.
the practical thing. I get that it might sink one big wave and everything. But the figures do speak for themselves. And actually, I don't think that they, if anything, I think they would actually lower the figures because it's a huge embarrassment. But they are not.
It's a small ferry point. Right, surely you would have naval ships. Well, you do. We have our naval ships, Coast Guard, patrolling that area to pick up a dinghy.
They're the ones bringing them in. The RNLI are the ones ferrying them in. And then, as well, I really want an answer on this. I'm wondering what they're doing with all the dinghies, because they must be stockpiling warehouses somewhere. Are they auctioning them off?
Seller in Spain.
No,
Wales.
They're all going to Centre Park.
Yeah,
I know where they...
Haven't you seen one?
No, do you know, they're stockpiling them. Have you not seen that? They're all behind things, and they've now had to take more land. And I zoomed in and I did a Google search and I tracked the place, the factory that was nearest. I said, can you give me the number? Because I wanted to buy one. I want a rib.
Why? Where are you going? Where are you going illegally?
She's rounding everyone up and taking them all back to France herself.
Very morbid. Buy a dinghy, someone's sunk in.
I want it to Norway to put along on the fjords.
Does this feel, as David said, like a political stunt rather than a serious policy?
Do you know, I've never thought about it that way, but I don't think it is. I think it's gone too far because you've got the president of Rwanda, he's agreed to it. I don't think it is. I think they're trying to do something and solving it this way. They've talked money. They've agreed an allowance that they're going to give them. It's 120 million a year. I know people are balking at that, but actually you've got to break it down. And it is, as you were saying, it's 5 million a day. For them here, so it's
You could argue it's an investment.
It's an investment.
To end this racket.
It's a huge saving because it's costing 125 million a year to keep them here. But what worries me, several things worry me. Rwanda's not a big country. I think there's 28 million people there. And if they're going to start taking the amount of people that we have here over there, not forgetting, and I have to go into the sort of like the breeding programme that they have, because they have about 7 children on average. It's not going to be long before there's going to be a complete imbalance, and you're not going to have Rwandans. They're all going to be immigrants, point one, which I think is really important. The other thing is that the Rwandan president, quite rightly, is saying that he wants to filter, he wants to know the background to every single person as much as possible.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. Good luck with that, because we don't. But if there's any suggestion there's a criminal record there, he refuses to have them. Quite right. That means we still have them. Yeah. So what are we going to do? Also, they're going to use that RAF base up in Leicester, that... I can't remember the name of the place. I've got it written down. Linton on Ouse.
Right.
And they don't know about this. This has been arranged that they're going to transfer other people there and house them. So that makes me think, if those people haven't been told in England, do the Rwandans know?
Well, you have to say
what's happening.
It possibly raises more questions than it answers.
Yeah.
Do you think the Rwanda plan will work? Mark at gbnews.uk coming up. My Mark Meets guest is Wayne Sleep, OBE. I'll see you on the other side of the headlines.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Lots to get through in the next hour of the show. My Mark Meets guest is dancing legend and reality star Wayne Sleep, OBE, who's live in the studio. If you've got questions for Wayne, do get them in, mark@gbnews.uk. Also, after the news headlines, we've got my alternative news headlines and another great British game show. That's a game show based around a news story of the day, plus more from my panel in the news agenda. Lots to get through. I'll see you after the headlines with Miranda.
Thank you, Mark. The top stories from the GB newsroom. A senior US official says a Russian warship that sank in the Black Sea was hit by 2 Ukrainian missiles. It's reported the Neptune anti-ship missile strike on the warship called Moskva also resulted in Russian casualties, but numbers are unclear. However, the Kremlin claims the Soviet-era vessel sank in stormy seas, not from missiles, but after an explosion of onboard ammunition. The UN's refugee agency says UK plans to send asylum seekers to Rwanda for processing are illegal. Downing Street says migrants who arrive in the UK unlawfully could be sent to the East African country within 6 weeks. The Prime Minister hopes the £120 million deal will serve as a considerable deterrent to migrants attempting to cross the Channel. But immigration lawyer Harjap Singh Bengal says the scheme is expensive and unworkable. Residents in Shanghai have clashed with police over new coronavirus policies. It's being reported residents have protested after being told to leave their apartment building so the government can use it as a COVID isolation facility. Footage shows people kneeling, even lying down in front of police wearing hazmat suits, with some being dragged away. Latest figures show there are currently around 23,000 infections in Shanghai. Police are appealing for witnesses after a man died 3 months after being punched in the head. 41-year-old Petru Sorin Delino was assaulted in North London in December. He was taken to hospital where he died last month. Met Police have released CCTV of a man they want to identify in connection with the murder. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have made their first public appearance in Europe since quitting as senior working royals more than 2 years ago. Harry and Meghan are attending the Invictus Games in the Netherlands after stopping off in the UK for a surprise visit to the Queen and to the Prince of Wales. The couple's brief trip to the UK came after they were absent from the Duke of Edinburgh's memorial service in London last month. And the UK was hotter than California today as temperatures reached more than 23 degrees Celsius in some places. That's 74 in Fahrenheit. In the warmest weather of the year so far, St James's Park in central London was the hottest spot in the country. But it wasn't limited to the south, with Yorkshire and parts of Scotland also seeing soaring temperatures. It's set to continue for the weekend, and the Met Office is urging people to wear sunscreen to protect against higher than normal UV levels. Well, on TV, online and DAB plus radio, this is GB News. Now it's back to Mark.
Wayne Sleep is live with me in the studio in 2 minutes' time, plus more from my panel and another great British game show. It's time now for my alternative news headlines, and we start with the news that Hollywood actress Nicole Kidman, Tom Cruise's ex, has apparently cut her long, flowing hair into a short bob. That's right, she's cut it all off. Well, here on Mark Dolan tonight, we've managed to get some before and after photos of the hairdo, and it's absolute exclusive. So here she is beforehand, looking absolutely gorgeous, lovely flowing locks, and here she is after. Ooh, she is the weakest link. Wonderful news for the actor Al Pacino, who has found love with a young woman almost 6 decades his junior. Noor Al-Fallah is 28, whilst the Oscar-winning actor is 81. In spite of the significant age gap, it's been reported the couple have a huge amount in common. They love the same movies, they have the same taste in food, and they both wear supportive undergarments. Back to those Nicole Kidman pictures. Here she is beforehand. What a golden mane that is. And here she is after the haircut. Quite a surprise. She's a red, who knew? Nando's, the popular chicken chain, are in the news. They've been forced to scrap their bottomless drinks option for high-sugar beverages due to the government's strategy to tackle obesity. What a clucking disgrace. Foul behaviour. Customers have been spitting feathers. Fighting obesity. What a paltry excuse. Let's take one last look at the lovely actress Nicole Kidman, star of Moulin Rouge, of course. And here's her new hairdo, right? This is before she went to the hairdressers. Take a look. And here's the after. You can't make it up, can you? Ever so brainy. And those are your alternative news headlines. Now, before we go, sometimes the jokes just write themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the leader of the free world and America's President, Joe Biden. This was him celebrating a job well done with, well, nobody. To be fair, we've all been there, haven't we? After 10 pints down the pub. And it's time now for me to shake hands with a genuine superstar. It is Wayne Sleep, OBE. Welcome to GB News.
How'd you do?
There you go. I found your hand. Wayne, a thrill to have you. Of course, it's time for Mark Meets, in which I always speak to the biggest names in the world of politics, showbiz, sport, business and beyond, or those who simply have a big story to tell. Wayne Sleep, OBE, is a British dancer, director, choreographer and actor, plus reality star. At 5'2", he is the shortest male dancer admitted into the Royal Ballet School. Because of his diminutive stature, many directors were reluctant to cast him in traditional male lead roles. As a result, many roles were created for him by some of the world's greatest choreographers, including Rudolf Nureyev. Wayne created the iconic role of Mr. Mistopheles in Lloyd Webber's smash hit musical Cats, and he's been a fixture in dance and musical theatre ever since. In 1973, he established a world record by doing an entrechat douze, a jump with 12 beats of the feet, on the British television programme Record Breakers. This record still stands. Wayne is also famously remembered for having danced with Princess Diana at the annual Christmas party of the Friends of Covent Garden at the Royal Opera House in 1985. He has proved to be a huge star of reality TV as well, appearing in I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, Celebrity MasterChef, The Real Marigold Hotel, and he appeared in The Real Full Monty, celebrating the original movie's 20th anniversary and raising awareness for prostate and testicular cancer. He also appeared in the BBC's Queer as Art documentary celebrating the LGBTQ contribution to British arts in the 50 years since decriminalisation. A hugely talented dancer, personality and British national treasure. It gives me huge pleasure to welcome Wayne Sleep to the programme. So Wayne, welcome to the show.
Thank you for that entrance.
Well,
God,
listen,
I can't live up to that.
Thank you for that entrance. I'm flattered. I bet you say that to all the boys. Now listen.
Yes, I do.
We are very happy to have you here. When did you get the OBE?
A few years ago, actually, yes.
Was it the Queen or the Prince Charles?
I had Prince Charles.
Brilliant.
Well, funnily enough, I suppose I won't get anything else after I tell you this story, but I was at the gates of Buckingham Palace, and I knew that it was going to be Prince Charles on the Tuesday, so some of the, the guys with guns, the police force said, oh, we've got bets on how long he'll talk to you. I said, what do you mean? They said, well, it's Prince Charles. I said, oh, is it? I said, well, I don't see anything wrong. And then I knew there must be a rift. Diana's friends and his friends. And I didn't know that at the time. But then I thought nothing of it. So I thought, oh, well, here we go. So you're meant to go and you shake hands, then they push your hand back. So that means get out. So after they give you the medal, and he walks back 3 steps, bow and go off. So when he gave me his hand, like you give it now,
yeah, go on.
I kept going. When he pushed me this way, I went, oh, how lovely to see you again. I just made it last a little longer. But he laughed because he knew what was going on, so we had a little smile.
Quite a moment. And that photograph of you dancing with Diana, that was an iconic moment in popular culture, wasn't it?
Well, it's incredible. I mean, it was only a 3.5-minute dance. I mean, I got this phone call because she'd asked me to teach her, but I couldn't because I was on tour around the world with my own show, Dash. And they said, expect a phone call from Princess Diana. So you have to be in place by her phone, get it all set up. And she said, oh, it's Princess Diana. He said, I'd like you to dance with me at Covent Garden this Christmas, etc. I said, well, I think we'd better meet first, because I knew she was very tall and I'm a midget. And so she goes, she was there. The first time I ever met her, she was in a dance studio, and she was in pink tights, leg warmers, jazz shoes, headband,
definitely
and wristbands, very 80s. And she went to me, da-da-da, and I looked up at this towering inferno of beauty, and I thought, we can't do this, it's going to be a laughing stock. And then I said something, I warmed up a little, and I said, do you mind if I sit down? I've had a very late night. And she went, you naughty boy. And that's when we clicked, and our humour developed, and that's what kept us going for 10 years together, I think. It was the jokes and getting away from the serious part of our jobs. And then I realised that we could send it up slightly. Yeah. So she'd do a kick over my head, push me down, I'd do a pirouette, she'd run to the corner, I'd lift her across the stage, and we got 8 curtain calls. And every year, when on the anniversary of her death, everybody comes from all over the world asking me for snippets or little conversations about the dance we did together. I didn't realise it would become so iconic as that, 3.5 minutes. And she chose the music, Billy Joel's Uptown Girl, and I hadn't got an OBE at that point. And I remember saying to her, you've got to bow to the royal box. She said, I'm not bowing to him, he's my hubby. I said, no, but we have to. So I made her bow, and as we ran off, she went, you won't get your OBE like that.
Why was it such an iconic moment, do you think?
I think it was showing her individuality.
And she was dancing with another man that wasn't the future king, of course?
Well, of course. And I think, I mean, if you're royal, they would be used to be doing that sort of surprise entrance on stage at Covent Garden, because a lot of them had done it before, so it wasn't unknown. But for her to do it on her own and with me, I think it was not the sort of thing to be done, perhaps, you know, especially 3.5 minutes.
You both looked amazing. It was a great dance. Did you remain friends then?
Oh, yes, but then we became friends.
Yeah.
And she used to come to lunch. I'd cook trout with almonds, the only thing I could. And she'd have that, and then I'd give chocolates to the boys, which she devoured a lot, and then probably went home and, you know... But, well, that's what started to happen. But towards the end, she had become a little bit sort of, who can I trust? And a bit like that, and questioning me a bit as well. And I realised that, you know, who could she turn to when she was alone and isolated like that?
Yeah.
But
and we know that she was mightily stitched up by the BBC over that panorama.
Well, there you go. I mean, who do you trust after that kind of thing happens? I mean, there were all the photographs of us, which was about 20 photographs, were all in the Daily Mail. She gave me the only copies she had, and I think she thought I'd sold them, and I hadn't at all. It was the photographer who'd done it. I wouldn't let her down like that. But, I mean, one funny day, we're talking about Diana all the time. Is that all right?
Of course.
Okay.
We'll talk about your tour in a minute. Very excited
well,
about
that'd be nice. That'd be nice. We've got time.
Of course we do. We'll make time. Don't worry about that.
Thank you so much.
And we've got to dance. There's a lot to get through.
Oh, of course we do. You know,
we've got to overcome the height difference again.
We do. Stand up.
Although I'm no Diana.
Cool.
Well, can you get a wide angle? Can we get a wide angle on this, Faye? What do you think? How much can we... Oh, there we go.
There we are.
OK, now what do I do?
You're about the same height as she was.
Is that right?
There we are.
That's where the similarities end, I think.
I think so, yes. Not wrong, yes.
Well, look, that's another one on the bucket list, firmly ticked. I have danced with Wayne Sleep, OBE.
No. But I'm going on tour now with my own show.
Well, let's talk about that. So,
well, it's called An Audience with Wayne
You've been unlocked down. You've been freed from
I
the
feel
shackles.
I've come out.
Yeah.
I've been 2.5 years where we go on stage, because for us who dance in theatre and live, that's our career's gone. You know, and we're only now picking up from that, and a lot of the theatres have lost a lot of their staff who drift away over 2.5 years, who've been running theatres.
Skilled
and now
people.
skilled people. Now they've got to skill new people and give them, you know, what to do. So we're all like fighting through it. But I'm going all over England this year, and I'm doing an audience with, and I can't wait for the questions to come at me. I've never done it before.
So an audience with Wayne Sleep.
Yes.
And I'll get my team to work out how they can get tickets. I mean, obviously you Google it, but we'll get the website. Tom will look after that. We'll give that out in just a moment.
Yeah.
So it's obviously it's Q&A, bit of dancing as well.
Oh yes.
Obviously, how couldn't there be?
Well, I can't help it, actually.
Absolutely.
But I do a tap dance to the Sailor's Hornpipe, like the last night of the proms, and it gets faster and faster, and that's at the end of Act 1. Yeah. Then I might do a bit from musicals I've been in, like Cats, or I play the MC in Cabaret, you know, I might do the Money Song. And there's tons of stuff to do, but there's a poem when I did the Entrechot, which you mentioned earlier, that was in the Guinness Book of Records. It goes a bit like this, but I'm doing it to rap, but I'll just do the first bit. It was in the New Yorker magazine the week after I'd done it, because it went all over the world, the news that I'd done this thing. And it goes, a dreamlike leap from England's sleep. He didn't doze, he did a doze. His legs arose and curlicues. It goes on and on like that. So I think that might be fun too.
That's brilliant. Did you have any idea, as you developed Cats with Andrew Lloyd Webber, and you created the role of Mr. Mistopheles, did you know that it would be the monster global hit that it would become?
No.
Because it was a gamble, wasn't it, creatively?
It was a difficult birth, shall I say. I mean, they'd mortgaged their houses, they'd sold all the rights for marketing, you know, just to get enough money.
It was an unconventional idea, wasn't it?
And we had to postpone the previews for 3 weeks.
Because of technical problems?
Well, yes, it just wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And things happening all the time, boys getting injured because of the dance ability. We were dancing in rubbish, all that sort of thing.
And do the public want to pay a lot of money and hire a babysitter just to watch cats dancing around?
Exactly. And funny enough, it's on a revolve, and all these Americans would come and they'd be sitting there, and they'd just be facing dustbins and rubbish, and they say, we can't see the stage, but they didn't know that the stage then revolves and they've got a wonderful view. But we met so many famous people that way. That's what I loved about it. I mean, for something that I didn't really... It was so difficult. was so in it, we didn't really know if it was any good at all. But then suddenly on the first night of the previews, and from on and on and on, the standing ovations that came with it. And we had T.S. Eliot's poems, let's face it. We had Trevor Nunn
with good material.
directing it from them. And it was meant to be Judi Dench, but Elaine Page took over and made it a sensation. And
what happened to Judi Dench?
Judi Dench snapped her Achilles. I was rehearsing with her The Gumby Cat, which was another part.
And could she sing?
Yes, she can. She did
But not
cabaret in the
not
West
as
End.
well as Elaine Page.
Different. I'm not going to say anything. I'll be
what you
shocked.
say. Yeah.
But, totally different interpretation, probably, you know. But they were totally different kinds of people. But whatever it was, it worked in the end. And but I remember we were rehearsing and we were doing a step that Gillian Lynn was choreographing for me. And she turned and said, "Wayne, did you just kick me?" And I said, "No." Achilles had shot right up into her kneecap.
No.
And that was it. She
quite
came back and she was in plaster with things. But you see, it would have been all right if she could just walk flat on stage. But we were having to get through rubbish and vehicles. And so she collapsed slightly and she just realised that she wasn't going to make it. So
well, that's not a bad swap, is it? Not a bad substitution, Elaine Page.
Tell you.
Incredible musical actress. What a singer, what a voice. And tell me about working with Lloyd Webber.
Well, I like it very much. And he gave me another thing after that. After Cats, that I was in for 9 months, I asked him if I could have the variations that he'd done for his brother on variations on the theme of Paganini. And that's what I was doing. I was taking my classical stages from the Royal Ballet and popularising it in West End shows, but still having that technique from the classical ballet, which nobody else had at that time. And he was doing the same, coming from the Royal Academy of Music. I'm doing jazz and all that sort of stuff, so it suited me, this album. And he said, why don't we put Turn Me On a Sunday, that I've done for Marty Webb, and the other album together, and we'll just do it for 12 weeks. Would you like to do it? I've just bought this little theatre called The Palace last week. Would you like it?
Amazing.
For your New Year's present. So I said, would I? And it was most of the last 12 weeks, and it lasted 3 years. So, and I did revivals of it, so I've got a lot to thank him for. And he put dancing on the map in a way in this country in musicals. We always had to wait for musicals to come from America to see good dancing on stage in musicals. But he changed all that, so I thank him for that.
And where is your heart? Is it ultimately in classical ballet or popular musical theatre?
It's in both. When I was younger, I wanted to be a song and dance man. I was only 8.
Fred Astaire.
That was it. Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, all that stuff. And I didn't actually get round to doing that. I did Cats when I was 32 or something. But I'm so thankful to have had the ballet, first of all. The adjudicator stood up and rang a little bell and said, "Oh, that's an awful picture of me."
Oh, no.
But, I mean,
you don't have a bad side, let me tell you.
No, that is a bad side. I don't like it. Anyway, never mind. Sorry. Nobody's ever,
I think it's a great pose.
OK, thank you. But anyway,
Only you could pull it off.
But anyway, I can't remember what I was talking about.
But you were saying that you're actually very glad that you had the classical training.
Yes, because
you said a bell would
if
go.
you start with... that's it. I was only 8 and I sang 5'2", Eyes of Blue, and I won the cup for the under-12s. I'd never been in a competition. My family weren't a theatrical family. I didn't have a theatrical mother or anything like that. And to cut the long story short, she rang the bell and said, "Where is this boy's mother? He must learn ballet." My mother flew out of the Methodist hall, never to be seen again. My son, ballet never.
So music, was music in the family, was dancing in the family at all?
Everything musical was in the family because we didn't have a television and we had to make our own entertainment.
Right.
So at a Christmas party in the sitting room of my grandmother, all the chairs would be around the edge of the walls because everybody's expected to get up and do a turn.
Great. And was your language always through dance? Is that what you gravitated to?
Yes. Well, I won a scholarship out of 300 other kids to the Royal Ballet School when I was 12, so I had to leave the rugby team where I was hooker in the West Hartlepool Tech when I was 12 and go down and live in in Queen Victoria's hunting lodge in Richmond
Bit of a
Park.
culture shock.
It was, but what a wonderful way to do it.
Yeah.
You can't go into ballet after you've done the musical theatre. You've got to start with ballet. You can't, you've got to start that from a very early age. And then I didn't grow, so that was the end of that.
What are your emotions when you dance?
Well, the music lifts me, and I can't describe it, but to do jumps around a very big stage, I like a big empty stage, so I can almost become airborne as you jump. And you just feel that moment where you actually are defying slightly gravity in a way, and you feel airborne, and it's a sensation that I couldn't ever get anywhere else in my life.
And what about your height? Has it been an advantage or a disadvantage?
No, it's a total disadvantage. You have to be 5'7". I mean, the girl might be my height, you know, when we were doing Pas de Deux, but then when she goes on her toes, she's another 6 inches taller. But then Sir Frederick Ashton, who was director of the company, he created rows specially for me, and I'm glad to say that they've just invited me back to the Royal Ballet to coach some of the rows that I created.
Well, yeah, that's right. You're now a tutor and a mentor, as well as continuing to perform. Do dancers improve with age? Can you do things now that you couldn't previously?
No. Not at all. I've got a total hip replacement. Look at it.
You've got a new hip?
Yes, lovely, isn't it?
Is it gold-plated?
Well, should be.
It's definitely working, let me tell you.
It's lovely, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah. In fact, it's not the only organ that's working, so well done.
Oh, thank you.
It's fantastic that you can still perform, isn't it?
Well, I think, you know, if you're born with it, you look after yourself, you can go on, and that's why I'm doing this audience with. There's a lot more for me to give, and I want to send out the message that if you're bullied and you're a boy at a dance school, at your normal school and all that, you can get over that stuff, you know, and I did. And you find a humour, you just laugh it off, even if it's not funny. You just have to rise above it. And also, people being told, oh, you're too wide, you're too this, you're too that, you're not the right size. Don't listen to them.
Well, you had the ultimate excuse being a little shorter, but it didn't stop you.
Well, I changed the negative side to positive. And I think that's a good lesson for people to
Elton
learn.
John was told by one particular piano teacher that he had the wrong kind of hands to play the piano.
What a load of...
You know,
it's okay.
It is. That's important, isn't it? As you say, you take the negative, turn it into a positive.
Yes.
You are the patron of the British Ballet Organisation, Vice President of the Royal Academy of Dance, an ambassador for Prostate Cancer UK, and also a supporter of the Terence Higgins Trust and a high-profile gay man. How have things changed for gay men in Britain in your lifetime?
Well, it was against the law when I was younger. We had to do it behind closed doors. And I didn't want to be gay. You know, because it was frowned upon, it was against the law, and it would have been easier to be straight in those days, quite frankly. But then we changed the law, and I hope that, you know, we opened a door for people. But now they're still campaigning for different causes, and I suppose it's sad that they still have to do that in a way. When I look back, I would have thought it would have all been done and dusted for them now, but I feel sorry for them. Then when AIDS came in, you know, we had a freedom before that of you know, cruising, getting boyfriends, girlfriends, but then a big stopper went on it, and it became lockdown in a way. And so I feel sorry for them in that way, but it's joyous that they've got a voice now, and they have to be respected for it.
And you're in a good place. You've got an amazing career. You've got an OBE, remarkable CV, and you're living in West London. You've got a south-facing garden.
Yes, first garden I've ever had.
In fact, we dragged you out of the garden this evening.
You did.
Didn't we?
Yes, you did, but I'm glad to be here because you're charming. But I also have my own foundation, which is the Wayne Sleep Foundation, which gives top-up grants to kids who can't afford their board and lodgings from vocational schools. And that was formed a year after, on the anniversary of Princess Diana's death.
Another great legacy, the Wayne Sleep Foundation. Well, we've got those tour dates, Wayne.
Good.
And I shall be attending because it's an absolute privilege to meet you, and I've got to see the show. So if you're watching the show or listening on DAB+, let me tell you that Wayne Sleep is live, an audience with Wayne Sleep across the country. 22nd of April at the Exchange in Sturminster, Newton. 6th of May, the South Holland Centre in Spalding. 18th of May in Weston-super-Mare. By God, you got more gigs than I have. 28th of May at the Tacky Morris Centre in Taunton. And the 29th of May, the Palace Theatre in Paignton. You're everywhere. The Palladium next.
This is just the beginning.
Just the beginning. Wayne Sleep, OBE, thank you so much for joining us
very much.
on GB News. What a privilege.
Lovely to talk to you.
Brilliant stuff. Lots more to come in the news agenda. Would you buy an electric car? Can you afford one? Not many can. Also, we want to get your emails in, so get your opinions over to me right now. mark@gbnews.uk. Lots more in our news agenda, plus another great British game show. See you in 2.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's 2 questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Well, reacting to the big stories of the day is my fantastic panel. Still with me, Connor Tomlinson, Ingrid Tarrant, and the wonderful David McIntosh. So let's get to our first story in this section. With petrol and diesel prices on the increase, now would seem to be the perfect moment to invest in an electric car. But with the average electric car costing around £10,000 more than a petrol or diesel equivalent, and charging points both expensive and few and far between, they still haven't fully caught on. Now, we've got a little bit of a medical emergency here because Connor's got a nosebleed. So can we please run in and save my wonderful panellists? Why has he got a nosebleed?
Talk of electric cars.
Actually, there you go. There's a tissue.
Here we go, here we go.
Can we please just come in? It's live telly, but we've got an emergency here. Just let's sort it out. And Connor that's the excitement of being on the Mark Dolan Tonight Show. There we are.
Shall I do nursey?
Can you do nursey with my lovely Connor? Come on, we've got an exclusive here. Let's see everything, folks.
I'm sorry, this is horrifically embarrassing.
Here we are.
I'm never going to live this moment down, am I?
No, you're
a live nosebleed.
I'm going to come to the rescue. Da, 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 da. Here you are. That's cold
Thank you.
water.
Wonderful.
My son gets persistent nosebleeds.
He'll grow out of it.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's his age as well.
Oh,
He'll
there
grow
you
out
go.
of it.
They're lucky to be so young, getting nosebleeds, aren't they? Or was it fisticuffs in the green room? Before you guys
found out.
No, you're quite a harmonious panel. Well, look, Connor, if you need to leave the studio and properly recover, do say.
Are you okay?
I am totally fine. I think it's just.
Well, let me just clean you up.
Put COVID in perspective, David, doesn't it? You know what I mean? When you've got blood pouring out of the nose.
Get a hazmat suit on, please, first. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Clear and coordinate.
Well, look, whilst Connor recovers, let's talk about electric cars. Big news from the world of motoring, because the new Mercedes Vision EQ XX has just completed a 1,000-kilometre trip. That's right, 1,000 kilometres on a single charge at a cost of 14 quid. So, are electric cars the future? Whilst Connor recovers with his medical emergency, David, would you buy an electric car?
Oh, it's stupid. It's just ridiculous. Let's just look. Let's just look. How is it going to work? Okay. If you cannot charge, it's a no. If you cannot charge that car in less than 1 minute to full capacity, you'll have queues backing out all the way down the motorway. It's just not going to work. How's that? And to be honest, I drive a 5.7 litre V8 American Muscle. I rev it 200 times before I leave and drive.
Is that right? What is it? A Mustang?
I'm a Nozhead. V8 Corvette. 5.7 litre. Yeah.
Can't believe it.
Woo!
Nicely done. So you've got like the carbon footprint of a Yeti. Basically.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Twice the amount of a jet.
All right. And so you're not going electric anytime soon. What about those Teslas?
No, and this is the thing is, they're not. Listen, I go out to the mountains, in the Lake District. I travel into the Lake District.
Nice part of the world.
Yeah, it is. And there is not an electric point for, if you get stuck in there in the winter, that's you finished.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the infrastructure for the charging points, it doesn't exist. And in 10 years, it still won't exist for the capacity that's needed. So if everyone's to get an electric car, let's be honest, if 80% of the UK was to get electric cars, how are you gonna sustain that with all the charging points? It's not going to happen.
What do you think, Ingrid? You're a bit of a car fanatic, aren't you?
Oh, I am. I love cars. I want to ride in yours.
Oh, you'll love it. It's a real sweet drive, real cruisy. The blondes love it.
Yeah. I can't see this working because I just feel vulnerable, completely vulnerable, because they can switch off the power, you go to charge up, and suddenly they'll decide they don't want you around, switch it off. Point one. Secondly, you said quite rightly, it's £10,000 more than the average car. The battery guarantee life is only 5 to 8 years, and to replace the battery is on a Tesla is £8,870 just for the battery. That's not removing and fitting, so you can imagine the garage cost for doing that. I've done a little bit of a thing here. The average consumption, so you compare the consumption of kilowatts of an electric car to whatever. An electric car is 2,000 kilowatts a year. The consumption of an average home is 3,100. So it's a third less than whatever. So think about the cars. To me, there's a whole great big agenda out here. I'm so worried about this. They want us all dependent on that. Norway, who has hydroelectricity with all the waterfalls and all the rest of it, they were subsidised hugely to buy Teslas by the government. So most people in Norway, the more per capita have Tesla in Norway than anywhere in the world.
Amazing.
They are not buying them anymore. They're going back to diesel cars because electricity, you mentioned about oil and petrol and diesel going up and up in price. Look at the electricity. That's going up and up in price. No control.
That's right. And actually, the French government have been looking at rationing electricity on Mondays and Tuesdays of every week. So that will be another concern.
Is it going to a point where only the rich can drive and the rest of us take public transport? Because you say £8,000 a pop for a battery.
Yes.
No one on an average wage is going to start being able to keep up with the funding.
Well, people don't even spend that on a car.
Well, exactly. There you go. So it will be a chance of people on public transport, the rich, the wealthy.
And plus, it's a bit like the Duracell Rabbit. I mean, that battery isn't going to suddenly be like full power today, and then when it reaches its 5 to 8 year guarantee, just stop. It's going to just lose power over time.
That's it, the functionality.
Yeah.
What about cleaner air, which would be an inevitable plus point from electric cars?
Oh.
I mean, if you've ever...
You're asking the wrong people.
I think I might be. I got 2 petrol heads.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like...
Turn it in.
It's like Top Gear over here on the sofa.
OK,
cleaner, who cares?
Let's reverse it. Let's reverse the question into another way. How much dirty air will it take to produce the electric cars and the batteries and all the components? Perhaps that's kind of maybe... There's nothing in it. Maybe there's more produced by that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It is an important question. Lots of emails coming in on this one. Valerie says, "Evening, Mark. It will soon come to pass that we all have to have electric cars, but they will be leased, not owned."
Oh, interesting.
Oh, my goodness. Welcome to hell. We
don't even more control.
Wow. That's very interesting.
Definitely not. And lots of emails coming in wishing Connor well with his sudden nosebleed, which is being dealt with by the GBNews nurse, who knows exactly what she's doing. Lots more to come. Do keep those emails coming in, mark@gbnews.uk. Would you buy an electric car? Can you afford one? Is it in your plans? Let me know what you think about the idea of electric car technology being the future. We've got another Great British Game Show to come as well. Plus, why are we so uncomfortable being naked as Brits? We'll discuss that next.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Lots of emails coming in. I'll get to those shortly. But it's time now for our viral sensation part of the show, in which we look at some really big viral stories. And let's take a look at this one. This is dogs in action. Look at these amazing creatures. So athletic and just loving every second. I'm not sure they're allowed to do that, but look at them. Haven't they got initiative? I mean, that is just art, isn't it? That is theatre.
Oh, that's brilliant. Do you think that's for real? That's not trick photography.
No, that's all the real deal.
They're doing it.
They're doing it. And the way
CGI.
Tails are wagging as well.
You sure
Brilliant
it's not CGI?
stuff. There you go. We're going to try to do lots more viral videos on the show of that quality. Now, are we Brits shy about getting our kit off? A woman has confessed in a Telegraph article that her husband hasn't seen her naked in 10 years. She blames her mum bod and a narrative of self-loathing in society for her shyness. She calls for body neutrality, which means celebrating the fact that our bodies work. She suggests unfollowing good-looking people on social media. Well, if we did that, David McIntosh wouldn't have as many followers as he has. This guy doesn't struggle. He does not struggle with body positivity. David, let's talk about it. Have you always had a great body, by the way?
I've touched. It's
You are so lucky.
Go on, have a squeeze. The chest.
Look at those
Go
guns.
on. Go on.
Got the guns, the abs, the lot.
He's got it all. No, what? It's self-love and self-confidence. Yeah. You know, that's what it is. It's in your mind. Forget the physicality. A lot of people can actually, to me or you, look absolutely great, but they still not feel confident. So if you love yourself, that is the main thing. So a lot of people not feeling comfortable nude, it's not because they don't look great, it's because in the mind they don't feel like they look great. You know, so
but what about
self-loving? Really,
what if you got a bit of a bare belly? You know, a beer belly, I should say. What if you got a beer belly, or if you just had a baby and the body hasn't quite snapped back?
Go on the beach in Spain. You see plenty of Germans strolling around in the little knickknacks with a beer belly out, so they're not afraid of it. Like I said, it's self-confidence and it's self-love.
Yeah, is that easy for David to say, given his amazing physique, Ingrid?
I reckon.
Give me a break. I was on a roll.
This woman's been very happily married, right? And she's got a great relationship with her husband. I think they've been together at least 10 years. They've got kids. And they still have intimate relations. It's not a problem.
With the lights on.
But she hasn't had the lights on in a decade.
I know, isn't it sad? With what David was saying, I think, typifies a man, though. I think men are much less vain in that sort of like respect about the body.
Or self-conscious.
And self-conscious, and the body's a machine for a man, whereas with a woman, it's all part of her beauty and things like this. I think it's terribly sad. I mean, I would not be happy, with the lights on. I wouldn't want anybody to see me naked. I don't even really like seeing myself naked. Actually, I don't even like seeing my face in the mirror. Because it's
beautiful.
No, but the thing is, when I say that, it's like, it's wrinkles, everything changes. But I accept it. And that's a big difference. This is all part of an aging process. If you've had children, I can't remember who it was, I think it was Susanna Constantine, and she said, these are my signs of having a baby. What a lovely thing to see it as, not as a flaw, because you've had babies who had stretch marks and everything. Be grateful, this is kind of showing. But that takes confidence. And it is psychological. A little bit, actually, like, I suppose, anorexics. They'll look in the mirror and they'll see themselves fat.
Yeah.
So
there's no twist on anybody. So I believe for an anorexic, if I was to say, you look great, there's nothing that you can do to change their concept of mind. So I believe for yourself, like, if you felt uncomfortable with your body, no matter how many words your partner said or society said, it wouldn't make any difference.
Yeah,
okay, that's
it comes from within.
Is it also a British problem where we're not used to being naked? I mean, maybe we should be like the Europeans.
There you go, exactly.
Walk around in the buff all the time.
Smart.
In Austria, for example, you can't go into a sauna unless you're naked.
That's right.
It's actually
and
required.
The same, and it's mixed.
Yeah, that's it. They don't want anybody hiding their modesty. The idea is, if I'm naked, everyone else is going to be. Yeah, what do we think of that? Is that the way to go?
The funny thing is, I went to an onsen in Japan, so everyone goes in there naked, but there wasn't much swinging about in Japan, I'm going to tell you.
No, they're not hairy people either, are they?
No.
The mind boggles, doesn't it? But do you think maybe that's something we could do in Britain, is celebrate nudity more? Because we're still a bit old-fashioned, a bit Victorian, aren't we?
Do you know, but I think we've always been like this. Look at France, with the nudist beaches. It was like, first of all, they went topless.
That was a big story in the 80s.
Huge. And then here, if you did that, you were arrested.
Yeah, I mean, if you did it in Blackpool, it would have been...
Oh, yeah, of course.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
And then they had the beaches, designated for being totally nude, and it was absolutely fantastic. And when you are with other people, or if you had like a bikini bottoms on a nudist beach, you would feel you didn't belong. People would stare at you going, what's the matter with you? But do you know, I think it's ingrained into the British people's minds. It's like a little bit prudish. I don't like children sort of like seeing their parents naked. I actually don't. So maybe I'm being a complete prude there. But I don't think we can. I don't think we will change, actually. Do you?
By the sound of it, no.
Can I ask
if your
you...
mind hasn't changed, then no.
Can I ask you...
I'm going out generation.
When were you last naked in front of someone else?
Me?
That's a very personal question.
It is a personal question, but I'll answer it. It's probably...
Go on, tell the truth.
I think it's about 16 years ago.
Well,
I mean, I'm very big on the mood lighting. Do you know what I mean?
Wow,
so I might not be wearing clothes, but I've certainly thought about which angles I'm presenting.
Sensual, yeah. OK, wow, I like that. Very nice. That's accentuate it.
Yeah,
wow.
Not just sort of sat on the loo. Do you know what I mean? In the buff. Not a good look, let me tell you. Well, let's crack on with this one. Warwick and Cardiff universities have banned hazing initiations after traumatised students recalled practices including drinking alcohol off teammates' testicles.
Yeah.
Each to their own. Other challenges included throwing eggs at female bar staff, public naked hazing, and locking new club members in cupboards. So basically the idea is those initiation ceremonies, are they acceptable or are they a rather strange relic of the past? What do you think about this, David? You've been in the military. You must have done some initiations.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say it
Go on
live TV.
Yeah, I mean,
no, we had
Marines.
some. Yeah, we're profound. We're known. We're actually in the papers because a lot of videos got taken about 5 years ago now. It went into the Sun newspaper of some heavy initiations.
Yeah.
To be honest, one of mine was one of the worst. We got stripped naked. We stand there, they go around making fun of you. Well, not making fun of me, but making fun of you. You're naked.
Oh, of course not.
I don't think so. No. So they make fun of you, and then it's a gauntlet of doing different things, beating you up, crawling through hedges, and everyone
beating you up.
And if you want to throw up, you're going to throw up on your oppo who's next to you. Okay.
You've got to throw up on your
colleague next to you, yeah. And everyone during this, everyone's pissing in a bucket next to you. They're all pissing in the bucket, and at the end of it, it's called flaming arseholes. I'll be honest, they throw tissue up your arsehole and they light it, and you've got to down a pint of the piss and sick, whatever in that bucket before your arse goes on fire.
I mean, that's a night out, isn't it, Ingrid?
Oh, my
You do this to demonstrate your loyalty to the group.
And you know what? You never wanted to do it, but once you've done it, you feel it's harder.
Right, what does we taste like?
Fresh.
Fresher.
Warm.
Yeah.
As well, probably.
It's all part of comradeship, It sounds stupid, it sounds weird, but it makes you
Well, the
makes you
thing
closer.
is, I suppose it
Go on, the
shows
boys.
if you're a team player.
Yeah.
But actually, can I just ask, way back in time, like at, say, the beginning of the 1900s, they wouldn't have been doing that then. So do you happen to know what the traditional initiation of the Marines
You know what?
was?
Funny, I'd be lying if I told you I don't know. This has just been inbred into us since I can remember. Of young lads come in, you dehumanise them.
Yeah.
You do this, but at the end of it, it's a laugh. It's not fun when you're going through it, but once you've done it, you can't wait to do it to the next lad. So it's kind of you pass it on.
The only thing
rite
is...
of passage.
Rite of passage.
Yeah, it's
exactly,
a rite of passage.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I think it's got worse and worse and worse. And I think it's become more than sort of like degrading. I think it's actually become life-threatening. People have died doing this. I mean, I remember sort of like friends of mine when they were at the rugby clubs and they had to do initiation. It was the yard of ale, wasn't it? That's all it was. It wasn't more of that. At university, it was like you had to get to the top of the steeple and back. You had to steal a bike and go around naked in the quadrant, but then you had to return the bike to the person who stole it from the next day. It was fun. It was harmless. It was showing you were a team player. But when it starts getting, like, really on the edge of actually being quite obscene, actually quite warped and potentially dangerous, it's not funny anymore. Yeah. It's really not. Initiation, I'm all for it. Dunking your head in the water and all those sort of like things. And it's being the team player, being part of the team. But that's dangerous.
I mean, Connor, apart from being forced to have a nosebleed on national television...
Yeah, speaking of being publicly injured and embarrassed, hello, everyone.
Welcome back. Are you feeling OK?
Yeah, totally fine.
All right.
Fine. It was just a production team roughing me up for being so irritating.
Of course, no. You don't have an irritation.
Thank you for everyone's nice emails saying that they wish me well. I'm sure my mother overloaded the GBNews.
Lots and lots plenty of fans out there for Connor whenever you're on the show. Are you prone to nosebleeds?
Not usually, only hot weather or if I say something particularly nasty to my girlfriend.
All right, well, listen, that won't happen tonight. What do you think about these initiation ceremonies? Because Warwick University are going to ban some of them.
I think I'm surprised so many people have such adventurous university experiences because mine were not nearly this dangerous or life-threatening. I think it's kind of part and parcel of being a sports team. I don't particularly condone it. I don't think I'd be particularly comfortable with doing shots off another man's extremities either. But I think as
knock it till you tried it, eh?
I know, come on. 2020, thank you very much.
Yeah. That is my pre-show warm-up now, let me tell you.
Oh, OK, well, that's why I'm back on the show, of course. No, but I think it's part of the hazing. The whole thing is you're meant to get something over your other teammates. So you're meant to ensure that you've got the camaraderie, that if one of you makes a mistake, the rest of you have each other's back. That's the kind of spirit of it. And I think the people that in the PR and HR departments, diversity and inclusion departments of the university never have their job challenged in their life, just don't get the mentality because they probably don't have any friends.
Yeah, well, that's probably a fair point. Harsh, but fair. Look, lots of emails coming in on nudity. Steve says, hi, Mark. Brits are not afraid of being naked. It's generally known that it's now the best way to get a policeman to attend you. And tell them about your burglary. Nicely done, bringing two stories together there, Steve. Thank you for that. Also on electric cars, Andy says, no way would I ever buy an electric car as a working man struggling to pay a mortgage and living in a second-floor flat. How the heck would I charge it? The same as those living in terraced houses or no drives. I'll stick with my 10-year-old diesel that's as reliable as a steam train. Clean air, it's the cleanest it's ever been, and the government banning ICE engines has stopped any development to make them even cleaner with Euro 7 or 8 engines. Electric is a con, and only the rich or company car drivers can afford to look green, whilst the rest of us are fleeced at the pumps. Andy, very well put. Thank you so much. And finally, this on initiations from Alex. OMG. Please do some initiations tomorrow, Mark. Well, Alex, I'll see what I can come up with.
Your poor panel.
Might get me cancelled. We'll see. We'll get the bucket ready. It's time now for the Great British Game Show, and we couldn't have a former gladiator on the panel without having a gladiator-themed game. But how well do my panel and you at home know your Vulcan from your Amazon, your Panther from your Cobra?
God.
Let's play Name That Gladiator, and let's start with this particular gladiator. Tom, you'll have to yell the answers in my ear because my memory's so bad I can't remember watching it. There you go. Who is this? Do we know what he is called?
He looks like an extra from Star Trek.
Great hair. What a flowing name.
No, I don't.
Wolf.
Oh,
That
Wolf.
is Wolf is the right answer.
Wolf,
Well
yeah.
done, David.
Wolf.
OK, our next character from Gladiators. Let's take a look. Who is this lady? She's got lovely dark jet black hair, big
That's
brown
a
eyes.
mullet and a half, isn't it?
It is. Do you know, David? Let me tell you, it's a black cat in the jungle.
Panther.
Panther is the right answer. Well done. How about our next gladiator? Let's take a look. Oh, we know who that is, don't we? He famously dated Ulrika Johnson for a while.
Oh, Hunter.
Hunter, well done.
Wow.
Got you there with the celeb bit. OK, next up, how about this classic character from Gladiators?
Oh, come on, get
Wesley
this one.
Snipes?
Do you know? No, you have to shout
Shadow.
out. Oh, it's
Shadow.
Shadow.
Oh, wow.
Well, you see, you'll know them all.
Yeah,
you
no,
have
that's
to
why I'm not
shout
saying
out.
anything.
Be competitive.
Yeah, okay.
Shout out. OK, how about our next gladiator? Now, who's this lady? She's very beautiful. She's got a voice that
Amazon.
could just draw you in. No, it's not Amazon.
Siren?
shit.
Siren, well
Oh,
done.
come on, rubbish.
Picked up the classical reference there. Well done, Connor. How about our next gladiator? Who's she?
Give us a clue. You know, dear.
What's her number?
Indeed.
My memory fades. These are before my time.
This woman strikes only occasionally.
Lightning.
Lightning. Well done.
Good
It was
clue.
lightning. Loving that 80s hair. What a fine-looking lady she is. How about this next one?
Jet.
Now this one is Jet.
Jet,
Absolutely
Jet,
right.
yeah, come
Jet's
on.
getting it done. Look at those muscles. My goodness, quite something to behold. How about those guns? Next up,
Oh,
a famous swimmer.
yes, Sharon Davis. She's
Sharon
not a
Davis.
gladiator.
Yes,
is she?
and what was her nom de plume on Gladiators?
Give us a clue. Fish.
No, not fish.
No, it'd be
don't
more
mind
exciting than that, wouldn't it?
Well, let me tell you that it's a very jungle area of the world.
Amazon.
The world's best-selling retailer.
Oh,
Amazon.
Right.
Amazon is the right answer. And last but not least... OK, this is a dangerous snake you wouldn't want to get bitten by.
Oh,
Right.
Go.
Cobra.
Cobra's the right answer. Well done. Brilliant stuff. Thank you to my amazing panel who will return very soon. I'm sticking around for headliners and we're back tomorrow at 9 for a big show. Thanks for your company. Happy Easter. See you soon.
Looking ahead to tomorrow's weather, and the UK is looking cloudy, misty and murky at first in the west, dry and bright elsewhere. Let's take a look at the details. Southwest England will start the day with low cloud, mist, fog and possibly some drizzle at times, although this will tend to burn back to the coast through the morning. In contrast, the southeast of England will start Saturday morning on a dry and bright note, with plenty of sunshine on offer for all. Wales will also have a rather cloudy start, particularly near the coast where patchy mist, fog or drizzle is possible, drier and brighter inland. It'll be rather cloudy in the northwest of England too. There'll be low cloud and mist around the coast with hill fog over the Pennines. It'll brighten up through the morning though. Low cloud will bring hill fog over the high ground of northeast England at first, with the brightest conditions in the east, but sunny spells will also develop here through the morning. Cloud will also bring hill fog and the odd spot of rain over the higher ground to the north of the central belt, but there'll also be some sunny spells. Northern Ireland will also have a cloudy, misty and rather murky start to the day, especially near eastern coast. However, it will steadily brighten up here through the morning. The cloud in the west will mostly lift and break to bring a dry and mainly sunny day to most of the UK. And that is how the weather is shaping up during tomorrow morning.
Join me, Darren Grimes, for Real Britain every Saturday and Sunday from 2 p.m. A news hour that comes with a trigger warning. Scorching hot opinion with prominent guests saying the unsayable and a little bit of weekend fun thrown in. Unlike other broadcasters, I won't be forgetting what the B in our name stands for. So howie in for Real Britain Saturday and Sunday from 2 p.m.